Hey guys, Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft, and today, well, tell you what, taking a nice little walk, and we're going to go to a big old fishing hole that I like to go to, and we're going to talk about historical fishing today in Shadows in the Forest. And so here we are, we're at the water's edge today, and we're going to actually discuss fishing today. Now, what I wanted to do is I wanted to kind of break this series up into a couple of different parts. Today what we're going to talk about is coarse fishing tackle, kind of the history of fishing hooks, briefly, and then we're going to show you the kit that I actually used. I'm going to show you the resource that I used as to fashion my kit, and then we're going to do a little bit of fishing. Got my cane pole right here, got my small kit, so we're going to set this line up and then we're going to get out. So one of the things that was discussed while we were at Martin Station, Steve Davis and I, we both sat in on a historical fishing seminar. And some of the things that were brought out were basically the history of fish hooks. Now, I've also been talking to Sam Hall, who's pretty affluent in historical fishing, and he actually helped point me in a couple of different directions and gave me some food for thought as well. Fish hooks have been around for a very long time. And they even have fish hooks that were made, 1,000 years prior to the birth of Christ. And the first documentable fish hook was basically nothing more than a gorge hook. And a gorge hook, what you would do is it would be sharpened on both ends, it would go down the gullet of the fish, and then when you pulled up, it would turn sideways, and then, in theory, you would catch your fish. A gorge could be made out of several things. It could be made out of bone, could be made out of wood, could be made out of locust thorns, could be made of a whole host of things. That's the first documented fish hook, or at least thereof, a type of hook. The second one that is notable is a deer toe bone, and you'll be able to actually reduce it down and you can carve it into the shape of the fish hook. So right there you just saw the reduction sequence of a toe bone of a deer. So save your toe bones. If you want to do primitive fishing, you can make the fish hooks from the toe bones. The cordage, obviously, that's being used could be a whole host of things as well. Could be dogbane, could be milkweed, could be stinging nettle, could be basswood inner bark, could be tulip poplar inner bark, cedar bark, things of that nature, fibrous things that you can twist into cordage. Let's talk about the type of fishing we're going to do today. What I'm using is coarse tackle. Coarse fishing basically is comprised of netting, spearing, fish weirs, bait casting, right? Such as what we're using here today. A fish weir, obviously, fish weir funnels your fish into a certain area. There's a catch pit, you go in and you get your fish. Spearing, self-explanatory, and so is dip netting, or however. There was another type of fishing that was popular. However, it wasn't as popular as coarse fishing, and that would be angling, and that would be the use of flies, or per se, artificial bait. Artificial bait was around, and they did use it quite prevalently. As far as your bait casting, anything that you could get a hold of that you could put on the end of the hook to use to attract the fish is going to be there, such as a nice big old night crawler, worms, mealworms, grubs, entrails from, small animals. Today I'm not really doing anything special other than using a cane rod, my line, my hook, and my bobber, and my dropper, which is known as a sinker. So why don't we take a look at my kit? But before we do that, what I want to do is I want to show you the one that it was loosely modeled after. And that was from the first president of the United States, George Washington, who was an avid coarse fisherman. One of the things that should be noted is about 90% of all your fishermen at the time, whether it be soldier, woodsman, militia, farmer, whoever, was coarse fishing. And George Washington was no exception. He had a coarse kit. Let's take a look at that one. So you notice that in the picture of George Washington's coarse tackle kit, he has an assortment of hooks, blind eye hooks, spade end hooks. He has two different lines out there. One's a little bit heavier than the other one, and they're set up in hand lines, as you can see by the line winder. He has some beeswax in there. That's to wax the shank of the hook when he ties his line on, there's a piece of cork in there for a float. And it's pretty much a basic coarse fishing kit. Now let's take a look at my kit. If you notice on the piece of brain tan there, you'll see quite a collection of what's known as a spade end hook. If you look to the tin to the right where the float is, you will see a number of what's known as a blind eye hook. If you look up the shank, you will see that there is no eye again. It is just a straight shank. If you look to the tin up above the brain tan, to the left of the line, you will see some beeswax in there. You will see a collection of droppers, which are nothing more than sinkers, and you'll see two styles. You'll see split shot, and you'll see a flat piece or a couple of flat pieces of lead. We're going to go into that a little bit later. The line that you see is nothing more than waxed linen line. Something I picked up from the seminar, and I'm not positive on how true it is completely, because I've seen pictures other ways. The person that was talking to us said that the length of the pole dictates the length of the line. Yet I've seen poles that were, of considerable length with shorter lines, and I believe that is to just actually jig when it's out there, and probably when using flies for angling. So you just go out far enough, drop it off on the top of the water, just kiss it, and then bring it up. Kind of like jigging. Sam actually told me that too. It's more of a jigging motion while you're doing this. As you can see, the kit is a basic kit. It's nothing great. Based on the two hooks that were the most popular at the time, and I stress the word popular, eyed hooks did exist in the late 1700s. And they were started off as in the needle factory, and they were a needle eye hook that was made. However, they were not that popular because they thought that they were a fad, and so they didn't catch on all that well, but they weren't there. Okay, so you didn't see many of them, which is why they resorted to the two more common types of hook, that being the spade end and the blind eye hook. First hook that we're going to tie on is the blind eye hook. I have a very large hook here to show you for the demonstration purpose. So what you're going to do is you're going to take this in your hand, and what you're going to do is you're going to start all the way down here towards the bottom of the shank. You're going to hold your line here, and now you're just going to do a series of half hitches. And tighten it on there. And now you're going to run a series of half hitches all the way up. The hook. Shank. And this dates back to at least 1700 in France. As you do this, what it's doing is, as you pull the line, it continues to tighten. So you will have constant tension on the line. Okay. The premise to that is as you pull, it continues to tighten a series of half hitches. The fish is going to pull this way, you're going to pull that way, and it keeps it nice and tight. The thing about this is, the nice thing about this is that when you want to take this line off, you just loosen it up. And pull it right off. And there's your line. ready to be used again. Here on the spade end hook, you're going to take your line, you're going to hold it there. You're going to loop this back on itself, just like this. You're going to hold it in place. Now you're going to keep wrapping this through the loop and around the shank of the hook. Keep going through. And it's customary to do at least 5 to 6 wraps. Okay, once you get that, you pull that, and then it cinches down on itself and tight, just like that. And that's the snell. Cut off your tag end, and you're ready to go. Alright guys, so I think that's about it for today. We're going to call it a wrap. Nothing really biting. A couple little nibbles, nothing major. Of course, because I'm on camera, as Steve would say. So let's just do a quick review, and then we'll go on to the next video. But we talked about 2 documented primitive type fish hooks. We talked about the gorge hook. We talked about the deer toe bone that could be reduced down into the shape of a fish hook. We know that fish hooks were actually manufactured at least 1,000 years before Christ, and they've been used right along. They've all had basically the same type of shape. They've had a shank, a curved, and a point at the end. Some were barbed, some were not barbed. We discussed the types of hooks for the 18th century. The common ones, the more common ones, of course, were the blind eye and the spade end fish hooks prior to the eye. The eyes were made. They were in the late 1700s. They thought it was a fad and they weren't used as much. So we go back to those common fish hooks that were used. Showed you a picture of my kit. I discussed it. And we talked about the hooks and how to tie the knots on the hooks. You have the snell for the spade end, and then you have a series of half hitches for the blind eye. So in the next video, we're going to tell you how to make droppers very easily other than using split shot. So this is Brian from Snowwalker Bushcraft. Thank you for your views and your comments. Until the next one, walk the woods.